In continuation of our previous discussion in respect of adjustments in our life, it is indispensable to go for adjustment in our business life also. So for the organization, already we know that an organization is also represent the personal account, or we may treat it as if an organization is a person. So up to last discussion, already we knew that unsold stock may be finished stock or work in progress, or raw material should be there on our hand, and if it is there, that is also to be calculated when we are calculating our profit or loss in the course of finalization of accounts. Apart from the same, again, like unsold stock, again another item is there, outstanding expenses. Outstanding expenses. We know that when we meet certain expense, we give money or money's worth, but sometimes the organization may not be in a position to pay immediately whenever the expenses are being done. Means, suppose the organization has taken a building on rent, and as this is the month of May and our previous month was April, supposing an organization is not in a position to pay the rent for the month of April 2020, but the landowner or the landlord supposed to be paid within the month of April. But in our day-to-day understanding, we can also get the same deferred or get the payment deferred for some days due to some limitations, and it is on the part of an organization, it is also unavoidable sometimes, as because we know that in case of an individual also it is unavoidable. No matter how rich the organization is or how rich the individual is, sometimes we may face difficulties or we may face scarcity of funds on our hand as an individual and as an organization. So the month of April has already been elapsed for us or for the organization, and for the month of April, the landowner or the landlord was supposed to get. So for them also, for him also, for her also, the time of April has already been elapsed. But supposing the payment has not been made towards rent for the month of April 2020, and we are calculating the all what receipt and payments or all the strength in the month of May, then naturally the rent which was to be paid for the month of April is to be taken as outstanding expenses. The expenses has already been made, means we have already used the building for the month of April, but the payment is yet to be made, so it is to be reckoned as an outstanding expenses. Likewise, we would have taken hire vehicles. If it is in hire vehicles, and sometimes due to mutual understanding between the owner of the vehicles and the user of the vehicles, means the organization, sometimes payment may be paid later, or the payment may be deferred subsequently to the subsequent time. And we know that when we are doing our finalization of accounts, maybe in the month of March or in the first week of April, maybe sometimes we may defer our payment for the next financial year even. Sometimes some businessmen take plea that it is not possible to defer the payment to the next financial period, but it is a plea only. We know that our real life, in our real life also, we may face some difficulties, and in the part on the part of the business organization also, we may face certain difficulties, and during with the mutual understanding between the parties, means to whom we are to pay, or the business organization is to pay, and the organization who is responsible for the payment, they may defer the payment. And if we are calculating the profit earned by the organization up to the period unto 31st March or unto 1st May, then naturally if the vehicles rent or vehicles higher amount has not been paid, then that expenditure is to be taken as outstanding expenses. Means we have utilized the benefits, you have utilized the resources, but the payment is yet to be made. The payment has not been made by the business organization, for which an adjustment is required in the process of our finalization of accounts to ascertain the profit earned by the organization unto a particular financial period, which may complete or which may end on 31st December or on 31st March, and in our context it is usually measured up to 31st March, because our finance ministry allocates the budgets in the month of March. So our financial year starts from 1st April and it ends on 31st March. Likewise, income outstanding or income accrued, income outstanding or accrued income. That means the income has been made, but the payment has not been received. In our point outstanding expenditure, if we are considering the adjustment for the organization, it is outstanding expenditure. And in my example, when we are taking the example of the owner of the building is also to take the accounts for himself, or for the, if it is an organization, for themselves also it is required to ascertain the profit earned during a particular financial period, for which the same outstanding expenses, when an organization is treating the same as an outstanding expenses, and the owner of the building may treat the same as outstanding income or income accrued. Income has been earned, but the original payment has not received on the part of the organization. Supposing being the owner of an organization, we may also give or provide something, provide our service, we may provide our vehicles, we may provide our landed buildings, we may provide our plant and machinery, we may provide our so many assets which are usually used for mobilization of resources. We may go for the same, and we may also earn certain income towards that or from that assignments. And supposing to whom we have provided with our service, and that party or those parties who are not able enough to make the payment immediately after completion of one financial period, then that income is also to be reckoned with when we are calculating our profit or loss, and that also calls for an adjustment in our finalization of accounts or in our final account. And sometimes even during our graduation, during our pursuit of study, I have seen so many students who are there, those who were those who used to try to memorize what is to be added and what is to be deducted, what is to be added and what is to be deducted. Exactly, that is not required to be memorized. It is a very silly habit. If we know conscientiously what is the item and whether the period has been over or not, and whether the income is to be earned or has been earned but has not been received, that is to be treated as accrued income. Like the expenditure, outstanding expenses, there is also provision in our accounts, though it is sometimes given plea by so many business organizations, but exactly that is a plea only, but truth is truth, and we cannot avoid the indispensable feature of our life as well as in the course of a business organization also, that happens like that. Likewise, income received in advance, advanced income received in advance. Income received in advance means we have earned the income which is supposed to be paid, but the party to whom we are to earn, exactly, suppose this is the month of May and we are providing certain service or certain, we are accommodating our site or accommodating our plants, accommodating our machinery, accommodating our vehicles, something for which we are supposed to be paid in consideration of our services or for our accommodation or whatever we provide with other business people. We may also at our 6s and 7s we may ask in advance. In our day-to-day life also, sometimes we give advance. To whom we pay advance, if we are keeping accounts for that person, then automatically to whom we have paid in advance, exactly that entity or that organization has not provided with our required service or the services what we seek, but we have paid the amount towards that, then automatically that is to be treated income received in advance. Sometimes we may have also gone for that unavoidably, or in the course of time also it is unavoidable by nature, and we know that resources are very fluctuating by nature. Sometimes it is there with us, sometimes it may be with some other person. So we can say even millionaire of the people, millionaire of this world, or millionaire of our country, or millionaire of yours, in your context also, sometimes resources, shortages of resources may be there, shortages or abundance of resources may be there. Sometimes you may feel that we have sufficient amount, we have sufficient resources, and during that period, suppose some entities or some business organization ask for in advance, in consideration of the services or anything what we may require or we may seek in the course of our business transactions, definitely we cannot say no, we cannot give. So we can give, and if we are giving, and if we are thinking of the accounts, finalization of accounts for that particular entity or for that business organization to whom we are concerned to, and we are making the payment in advance, then naturally the same amount will be treated as income received in advance. Then depreciation. In my last interaction also, I had given or I elaborated almost all the things or compared amortizations, depletion and depreciation. After wear and tear use of the resources, the face value, the book value of the resources will decrease or bound to be decreased. As far as our context is concerned, income tax authorities are there. Those who give certain prescribe certain percentage of book value or book's worth is to be depreciated, is to be decreased or is to be declined. That is called, in case of assets it is called depreciation, fixed assets it is called depreciation, and in case of mines and quarries it is depletion. In case of leasing property it is amortization, like this. If we are not reckoning the same depreciation, amortization and depletion at par, we may not be in a position to ascertain the real profit earned by the organization during a particular financial period, or in case of loss, we cannot obtain or we cannot ascertain the original loss suffered by the business organization in a particular accounting period. And it is unavoidable by nature. And we may have also, when we are using depreciation, we should also know appreciation. Sometimes you would have seen the value of the landed properties in every in almost all the countries. Exception prevails everywhere, but we are observing almost the value of the landed properties increases gradually. If it is increasing, that is appreciation, but in our accounts we may have provision for the same, but it is hardly possible on the part of the business organization to exactly reckon the value of appreciation for particular land, so for which we may also ignore this same. Next is bad debts. Bad debts. Debts is what is to be paid, what we owe, what we supposed to be received from others. We say we observe that, or we are bound to observe that in the society sometimes we may give our service, we may sell our items on credit, and to whom we are selling on credit, all these people are to be treated as a debtor, and for them we are creditors, but out of which sometimes knowingly, deliberately, or in the course of time, from whom we are expected to receive, that party or that particular individual may not be in a position to pay us. Of course, in our context we have seen that sometimes it happens like that. Some people avoid to pay for years together, and in case of business organization, it is the bad debts may be what they are in existence in our books for at least 2 to 3 years, but beyond that we cannot.